Hi there. Welcome to the Right Here, Right Now live show. This show has one simple question. What's on your heart and mind right here, right now in this moment? We explore the depths and breadths of our humanity through that one simple question over the course of 30 to 45 minutes. I hope that you'll join us. I hope you'll enjoy the exploration. And this tune was created for me personally by the incredible Peter Griffiths, one half of the amazing Mind Takeaway. Do let us know what you think. Let us know what you take away. And of course, we always welcome challenges too. Hope to see you on the exploration. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Right Here, Right Now live show. And I've got amazing Kerrie Hoffman with me. How are you, Kerrie?
I am great. How are you, Gary?
I am doing really well. And a quick shout out. I know we keep mentioning her, but she's amazing. Thank you to Arlene Mendoza for connecting you and I in the first place.
Yeah, she is the one that connected us, and it's been fantastic. So special thanks to Arlene for sure.
So do let our viewers know, those that are watching us live, Kerrie, and those that may watch back, just give us a little lowdown as to who Kerrie is before we go on our exploration today.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, hi everyone. I'm Kerrie Hoffman. I'm a #1 best-selling business author and CEO of Hoffman Digital, and that's a collection of companies, including Get Digital Velocity, which is a next stage consulting firm, and a focal point business coaching practice where I do digital advisory and executive coaching. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So into our very simple but quite broad question for today. So Kerrie, do let me know today what's on your heart and mind right here, right now in this moment. I'd love to learn about that.
I love this question, Gary, because it can bring up so many things, right? But I think what's I think what's on the heart and mind of myself today is I've been noticing that there's a lot of just frustration in people lately, and distraction, and this inability to focus. And it's really been my heart and mind because I work with a lot of people, and it seems like people are almost paralyzed, like they're having a hard time. And I work with people in a work context, obviously, and it just seems like they're paralyzed. Not It's not that they can't get enough done. It's almost like they can't get anything done. And so that's really been, I guess, weighing on me recently.
Wow. Well, that's a really interesting sort of seed for us to explore today, because I guess where I'm going to straight away as someone myself that works in corporate, I know you serve a lot of sort of smaller companies as well as large ones as well, Kerrie. Is that a sort of consistent theme then? Is that maybe what part of that weight is? Is it regardless of sort of sector and business and size? Or
Yeah,
is there a trend that you're seeing with that?
I think it's regardless of size, but I'm definitely seeing it a lot in corporate America right now. Get Digital Velocity works with large customers, and there's a lot of there's a lot of change going on for them, right?
Mhm.
We work with companies on digital transformation, and we've actually exited the industrial age. We've entered the next stage. This actually happened almost 20 years ago. But I think with, just the events of the last 18 months or so, that's almost got people paralyzed. There's so much change going on. And in the last 18 months, all large companies just kind of got shoved into the next stage, right? If they
Mhm.
weren't transforming before this, they were forced to transform with this.
Mhm.
And so it's a lot of change, and a lot of rapid business acceleration, which I think smaller companies, have seen and just jumped on board and gone with. But the larger companies, maybe, if you're working on the status quo and the pace you used to work in, you get overwhelmed by all this change.
I'm really curious, Kerrie, with your experience. I'm wondering how much of that, and again, this is total throwing out a hook as we explore today, is around that sort of human part. Because what I see a similar sort of overwhelm. I'll use that word.
Hmm.
Partly digital, but also partly, oh my God, I didn't realize how dehumanized we were as humans in the workplace. And now technology's come along. swept us off our feet, and we're going, oh, wow, not all computers are going to take my jobs, but why did I treat humans that way? Or was I
Yeah.
really so unconscious as to how I even showed up? So I'm wondering if that's sort of technical plus rehumanizing sort of compound effect. I don't know. That's what I'm sensing, but I might be off the mark. I wonder what your thoughts
No,
are
I
around
think
that.
I think you're right on the mark, actually. And because if you think about it, we've been now working virtually. Some companies are back in the office. Mostly, if they're back in the office, it's kind of hybrid, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we've been working virtually for so long. It's so easy to just be on virtual meetings all the time. It's not nearly as personal as it used to be. For a long time, for many, many months, we were isolated, right? So you were either isolated with yourself because you lived alone or with another person or maybe with a family of 5, who knows, right? But it was mostly about that family and being either virtually at work or home. And I think we really slowed down a lot, right, on meeting with other people and going out and going on vacation, right? There's been a little bit of that coming back, but that has really, I think, emphasized what you're talking about here, where we were kind of dehumanized before, and now that we're into some maybe forced dehumanization, because really, let's face it, the virtual, even the video is not the same, right? You really start to sit back and say, geez, how were we connecting, right, as people?
Mm.
And so you've got to get this balance of being able to interact with people, and it takes a lot more work, I think, to interact with people virtually than it did in person.
I'm really curious. I'd love to actually to share a little bit about the new book that you're writing as well, Kerrie, because I think it's really relevant to this conversation. But what's coming up for me now as well, like you're into digital transformation, and I'm wondering where is there a focus as you help companies transform digitally? Where does sort of what you used to call the soft skills, which you all know are actually really hard, things like listening and vulnerability and self-awareness and those, like how integral or how where do they sit as part of you helping organizations transform digitally? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, the soft skills are actually super important because anytime you're going through a change, and really this is a transformation, right? So that's like a change on steroids. You're right. Your ability to listen, right? To collaborate with other people. You're not going to have all the answers. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to know. It's not like you can plan the transformation out and say, "Oh, I know we have these 10 major milestones and all these steps to take," right? It takes a lot of collaboration. It takes a lot of listening to other people. It takes a lot of observing of what's happening in the marketplace and how might we need to change. All those things are so important. And it's interesting because writing this chapter in the book, so I wrote a chapter in a number one best-selling book series called Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. And it has a subtitle, um, Fresh Perspectives on Profitability, People, Productivity, and Finding Peace in Your Business. Um, it's volume 5 that's releasing on November 10th. And I wrote a chapter in Finding Peace in Your Business, which is really interesting because I did write a chapter in volume 3. It was in productivity and it was all about digital transformation. But what I'm finding is if you don't have these soft skills and if you don't understand how to use like your emotional talents, intelligence, and the power of your mind, so the power of the human mind, it's very difficult to accomplish a transformation. And
Mm.
so I ended up doing a um, an event last May where decided, you know what, I'm gonna talk about this topic, and then in talking about this topic, it kind of came up that why not write a chapter on it because it really is that important. But what a lot of people don't know is how to use the power of their mind and how it's not just about your mind. It's how you connect to others and other minds. And so that is kind of the premise of the book. And I'll stop there and see what comments or questions you have.
It's really fascinating because I'm sort of sitting in this weaving of your original answer to my question, which was, it feels heavy, almost paralysis in
Mhm.
some areas right now because there's so much going on. We're moving to this, increasingly digital space necessarily, yet the opportunity to reduce, I sense, I don't want to put words in, but I know from my own lived experience, contributing to your chapter, funny enough, was this: by letting go of control, by letting go
Mhm.
of the need to know what's coming next, we actually release a lot of that paralysis. But it's
Yes.
completely counterintuitive, right? Everything we've been taught.
Totally counterintuitive. And I think that's the challenge, right? We've been taught that, we have to come up with answers that, we have all these responsibilities in our work and our job, and we should have the skills and experience to do it ourselves. And in a transformation, it's about collaboration. And here's the thing. So the mind is actually made up of a number of components, right? And so we could break it into the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And your conscious mind actually only has 10% of the power. It's your subconscious mind that has 90% of the power. And there's some key
Wow.
reasons for that. Yeah, I know. It's like our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, right? And the subconscious has so much more power. Yet the subconscious mind acts like a subordinate and our conscious mind is the boss. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So so the interesting thing, and it's interesting in me writing this chapter because now I'm talking about this with people, and there's a lot more, I think, openness to these concepts than I previously thought was out there, because the power of the subconscious mind, its great power comes from reaching into and being able to tap into the infinite intelligence. Okay, now we're getting into a deep topic, right? That has been a bit of a taboo to talk
Yeah.
about in the past.
especially when you're talking like digital, like universal mind, like the old way would have
Whoa.
told you like that is too woo woo. That
Yep,
cannot go anywhere near technology, right? That's what we would have told
exactly.
ourselves even 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah, totally. And now I'm amazed at when I bring the topic up, like people will start talking about it. People that I never would have thought were understanding it or into it, right? So it's
That's
interesting that maybe
amazing.
the taboo is lifting on it. I hope so because it's so important. And the reality is, it's actually been written about for millennia, right? It's been taught, and it seems like we, as the human race, we have to learn it over and over and over again. But there's so many books out there, and old, books that have been around for a long time. It's been studied in universities, and so I think that, as you introduce people to how much it's been talked about in the past, it starts to become a little bit more, oh, like we can talk about this. And not only can we talk about it, but we can learn about it and then start to, give it some regular attention and intentional practice, because it really takes that to fully use the power of your mind.
That's such a beautiful ad. I want to bring it super, for anyone that's watching us live or watching this back, Kerrie, like super sort of practical. So what does this mean? What are we talking about in terms of universal mind? Okay, there's the infinite wisdom, etc. It's as simple as, for me, what I had to do was literally get out of my own way once, right? And actually,
Right.
instead of me saying to myself, actually, I need this, this, and this in the way, because that is what will bring me success. When I have the car, when I have the money, when I have that holiday, I will be okay then. It's actually that, for me, it was a realization that, oh, I'm actually okay anyway,
Right.
regardless of if I have the car, the wealth, or the, like, that really, it seems simple, but again, because it's sort of anti our conditioning, like that for me was just so freeing, like to realize that actually, no matter how much money or where we live or anything, okay, it's different levels of privilege, I'm not belittling that, but like we are whole and complete before everything outside of us.
Yeah, and if we only seek those things, and when we get those things, it's not going to be the thing that fulfills us in the long run,
Mm,
right? So we think, "Oh, I'll be okay when I have this or I have that." But in reality, when you get that, you're not fulfilled, because that's actually That's not what fulfills us, right? I think more of what fulfills us is how do we connect with other people? How do we get through these things together? What are we contributing to, to the world to make it better? So it's not about the stuff. Yeah, the stuff can be nice, but if that's where
Hmm.
we're looking for fulfillment, that's not where we're going to find it, right? And
Mm.
I think thinking about the stuff, and we often think about what we don't have, right? And let's circle this back to business too. A lot of times when I'm speaking to business owners or even, people in corporate America, we're talking about what we don't have. We don't have enough customers. I don't have enough time to get this done, right? And when we're thinking consciously about what we don't have, we're sending a message to our subconscious to work on those things. So remember I said the conscious mind is like the boss and the subconscious mind is like a subordinate. It's very powerful because it can reach way beyond what we think it can, but it's like a subordinate. It acts on what we give it. So if we're saying I don't have enough customers, I don't have enough time to get everything done, I don't have these things that I want to have. That's what the subconscious goes and works on. And we end up in this almost, I think this whole idea of I don't have enough time, then we get paralyzed by that because our subconscious is constantly working on you don't have enough time. It's fulfilling that for us. So it's so it's so amazing. Highly successful people, whether they know it or not, are thinking about what they want. Like, I want more customers, as an example. And if you really understand this and you consciously understand the power of your mind, then you're actually visualizing what it's going to be like when you have enough time or when you have enough customers, right? You start, let's go on the time thing because this paralysis was what was on my mind.
Hmm.
The whole time thing, if you believe you have enough time, you're actually going to use that time better. You're going to think about what are the most important things that I need to get done. Oh, the most important thing that I need to get done today is, step 1, 2, and 3 on this project that I'm working on. And so you first thing, first thing in your day, you start to attack the things that are most important for you to get done. You get those done, and you feel a sense of satisfaction that you actually got it done. If you're thinking you don't have enough time to get those steps done, then you're busily going about being in meetings, doing your email, looking at all the things you want to check off on your checklist, but they're not the most important things to do.
This is just—it's such a brilliant, isn't it? This is why I love these shows, right? Where you can go, where you go from just that one question. And I think what's so powerful for me, and I keep getting that iceberg metaphor pop up as we're speaking.
Mhm.
Just a reminder for those watching this back, if you've just joined us, 90% of our potential, our infinite potential, sits behind that conscious mind that Kerrie's speaking about. So if we're telling ourselves we don't have enough time, you're feeding 90% of you with that message.
Yes. Exactly.
So it's almost like toxically putting poison onto the rest of your ability in a way.
Right. Right. Yeah, completely.
So I try and think it, I feel in metaphor, Kerrie, at times. So like I'm just really feeling that in this moment as I sort of embrace, like literally, it's like going, okay, you don't need that other 90% because you're too transfixed on being lost in this 10%. So,
Right.
so what's the invitation like is on your heart and mind as we start the conversation today? What are some sort of practical steps you might offer a small business leader or maybe even a corporate leader right now in this moment around getting them to try and try and alleviate some of that paralysis? What would your invitations be to them?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that's important is just an awareness, right? Where are you at with what you're feeding your mind? So actually do an inventory. Like keep a pad of paper where you're going to write down what am I thinking about, right? What am I thinking about most of the time? What am I telling myself? Just get that initial awareness of what that is. Okay? So
Brilliant.
Keep a list. I mean, these are simple things, but they can be so powerful. And then you've got to change it, right? You got to turn it around. So everything that you're thinking about that may be negative, you can turn it around to be positive. So I don't have, I don't have enough time. Well, I have 24 hours in the day, and I'm going to spend 8 hours of those on work. So what or more. I mean, people are working so much more than that right now, but not getting anything more done. So, how am I deliberately going to use those hours that I have? You have control over that, right? So you can turn all the negatives around to a positive. The second thing that I really encourage people to do is there's a lot of science behind this now, like a lot. And there's a lot of different books. I mentioned a lot of different books in the chapter itself. I think I should probably mention a few of them, right? Like The Biology of Belief is a great book that starts to talk about the science behind this. What the bleep do we know is actually quite a few years old, but it is a great book that talks about the science behind this. And one of the things, if you feel overwhelmed about changing from this negative mindset to this positive mindset, then one of the things that you'll find in these books is that the 45 minutes before we go to sleep and the 45 minutes after we wake up are this alpha state that we're in. And your subconscious mind is more susceptible to what you are feeding it at that time. So,
Mm.
45 minutes before you go to sleep. So, this is a simple thing you can do. 45 minutes before you go to sleep, promise yourself that you're not going to watch the news or some, movie that has a bunch of negative things in it. There's so much, action thrillers and all these, negative things. Don't feed yourself those things. Don't do it. Don't do that 45 minutes before you go to sleep or 45 minutes before you go up, get up. So those are two things that I would offer right away that are pretty simple. Keep the log and then flip your thinking and then make sure like at least before you go to sleep and when you wake up, you're thinking about positive things or you're doing gratitudes. Like the best way to flip out of negative emotions and into positive emotions is by offering gratitude.
So, wow, three brilliant, brilliant invitations. And you know something, Kerrie, thank you for that. Like the one that I'm so guilty of is the little last minute look at the phone before you go to bed, like
Oh,
5 minutes before.
yeah.
I'm so bad at that. And I'm glad you've offered this reminder to, yeah, keep the phone away and just give yourself some space before bed. That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can make a huge difference. Just a really big difference.
So cool. Look, we knew this would happen. We're flowing through 23 minutes in, crazy. As we're going to start to wrap up into these next few minutes, Kerrie, I'd love to. Where do we go these next few? I just love your thing. I just can't get over this. Like you're helping digital transformation and you're handling helping people understand the mind. Like where did that emerge for you? Where did that combination? When did it start becoming? Oh, these things are actually deeply connected and not separate. Or have you always sensed that they're deeply connected? I'm really curious.
So, I was always to me they were always connected, but not something that you would often talk about, right? And I probably, as I learned so much more about the power of the mind, I actually did a training out of India with subconscious synergies on the power of the mind. And for me, that training was a reminder of a lot of things that I knew. Um, but it really showed me just by interacting with other people going through the training that it was brand new for so many people. So I think I kind of I know that I grew up being connected. It's not like anyone introduced me to meditation or anything like that, which is a way to clear your mind, right? To allow other things in. But I was doing that without knowing it. I was sitting in nature. So I had this connection and I understood the power of my mind. I always I'm an optimist. People that know me know I say my glass is 75% full, right? So I'm often thinking of positive things and feeding my mind positive things and pushing out the negative. So for me the connection was always there.
Mm-hmm.
My whole career has been this pushed transformation, and it was always business transformation enabled by technology. This digital stuff really has come up in the last couple of decades. But the need to change, I brought a lot of teams through transformations, and I did a lot of mentoring and coaching in doing that, and really teaching people the art of the possible and getting them to think of what's possible, not like knowing what to do, but just trying it, right? Let's just try a bunch of stuff and see what works and go with that and don't worry about failing. It was always part of me, and it's so important. It was so important for me to see that it's not common sense to so many people like it feels like it is to me. And so getting this message out is so important. And it really pains me to see people in paralysis and distracted or not liking their work and just all this negativity. It's like, oh, I just want to lift people out of it.
And you've done that. If anybody watches this, they're going to be getting some great tools from you, Kerrie, because the thing for me as well, which I love, there's three things that keep. So I've been doing this for 6 months now, this particular show. And there's these three, what I call pillars that keep coming up, which I look at through the work I'm looking to do more, sort of holding space for transformation, Kerrie. And that's playfulness, or
Hmm.
AKA, experimentation, practice. You spoke to all of those. Connection, we can call it love, connection, understanding, empathy. All of these things are linked. And then the other one is context or integration.
Oh,
And
yes.
I just think it's just so interesting that without any prompt through one question, these three themes just keep on coming up. It's just really, really fascinating.
It is fascinating. And there's so much, the connectedness of those things is so important, right? And everything is connected. So all the topics that come up throughout, that we hear, there's just this connection with all of it. And I love those three things that are coming up as you do these shows because they're so important.
It just gives us, I know hope's not a strategy on its own, but it just gives us that, I guess, clarity. Like, you can, I guess there's no abject truth of anything. It's all perspective to an extent, but there are these trends. There are these sort of almost laws, right? I'm getting the feeling it's almost like you've got this law of connection. There's this law of, systems that,
Hmm.
there's this law of play. Like, that's almost what it feels like is emerging. Is just like there's these things that are beyond a principle, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think recognizing it is step one. And step two is then taking action and doing something about it. Right. So
Great
this
point.
this idea,
Great point.
this idea of intentional practice. I mean, even though I understand this stuff and I'm into this stuff, it's very easy to just coast along and not be intentional, right? It takes
Mhm.
regular attention and intentional practice to first understand how to use the power of your mind and then actually work on it and implement the power of your mind. You've got to clear out all the clutter. You got to clear out all the noise first so that you can receive and you can connect. And so that's where the regular attention and intentional practice comes in.
So beautiful. I'm really curious. I'm really, really curious. Where are you at as we end this beautiful exploration today? Is it still as heavy, or is it slightly lighter, or how are you going
Oh,
into the rest of your day?
I would say it's a lot lighter. And it reminds me also to be very empathetic to those who are struggling right now and give them just some simple ideas to help them kind of out of that heaviness. I
Yeah,
think so that's I love that you asked me what are some things people can do because I shared some of the simple things because I think that's the important first step just to get people out of that heaviness.
brilliant. Kerrie, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining us if you're watching us live or watch this back. Please give us one more push of the new book, Kerrie, before you disappear today.
Yes, absolutely. So, Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner, Volume 5 releases on November 10th. It has actually 10 brilliantly practicing experts. sharing wisdom. And this idea of intention ended up to be the theme throughout everyone's content. So I hope everyone will take advantage of it. It's a great book series.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining me, Kerrie, and we'll keep in touch. And thanks everyone for watching the show. Take
Thanks,
care for
Kerrie.
now.